Verstappen has declared war on this driver. Ayrton Senna crashed on purpose to win a championship, and Rosberg blew up Hamilton's tyre just to take him out of the race. That's what happens when Formula One drivers hate each other. Starting with Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, who hated each other so much that they turned Formula One into a personal war. It all began when Prost was McLaren's top driver, and Senna joined the team in 1988. But although they seemed to respect each other at first, that quickly changed when Senna started challenging Prost's dominance.
Ayrton Senna crosses the line and you can see his exultation.
Ayrton Senna, the new world champion.
Little by little, Senna not only started beating Prost, but regularly also humiliated him with aggressive overtakes, always setting faster lap times than Prost in practice. And of course, the Frenchman, who was used to being the number one, didn't like that one bit. But nothing fueled their hatred for each other more than the San Marino Grand Prix. That day, Senna ignored a pre-race agreement with McLaren and overtook Prost. While the Brazilian saw nothing wrong with it, the Frenchman saw it as a betrayal, and from that moment on, they practically declared war on each other. Their hatred was so intense that they wouldn't even look at each other on the podium, and they started playing dirty both on and off the track. But their rivalry reached its peak in 1989 at the Japanese Grand Prix when Prost did this.
Senna's looking for, and he's going through, out! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic! This is what we were fearing might happen during the race, and that means to say that Prost has won the World Championship.
After that, Senna still managed to finish first and secured the points he needed to become champion. But his joy didn't last long. Shortly after, the FIA ruled that he had rejoined the track illegally and disqualified him, crowning Prost as the champion and making their rivalry even worse.
Refuse to walk away from the fight. It's my nature to go right to the end, and that's what I'm going to do.
To be very honest, I'm quite happy to leave because I think it becomes absolutely impossible to work with Ayrton.
But the following year, it was Senna's turn to get revenge, and at the Suzuka Grand Prix, he did this.
We're on the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing. Senna goes off at the first corner.
Thanks to this crash, the championship victory went to Senna, but the most shocking part was what he said right after.
By being a racing driver, you are under risk all the time. And by being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. Because we are competing. We are competing to win. And the main motivation to all of us is to compete for a victory.
But at the end of Prost's career, something unbelievable happened. His last race was the 1993 Australian Grand Prix, where Senna took the victory. But when it was time to step onto the podium and lift the trophy, Senna called Prost to stand on the top step with him and congratulated him on his entire career. But that's nothing compared to the fight between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, which destroyed a childhood friendship. But let's take a look at the intense rivalry between Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, which ended in betrayal. Vettel and Webber were teammates at Red Bull, but the German always received special treatment. Webber hated that, and when he had the chance, he tried to challenge his teammates' favoritism. But things ended in a completely unexpected way. During the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix, Webber was leading the race when the team ordered both drivers to hold their positions and not fight each other. But Vettel ignored the orders and overtook Webber forcefully. The Australian was so furious that after the race he confronted Vettel in the pit lane and almost came to blows with him. In the end, this rivalry ruined the atmosphere within the team, and Webber decided to retire from Formula One later that year. Now let's take a look at the bizarre reason behind the rivalry between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. The two had been friends since childhood, racing go-karts together and dreaming of competing for titles in Formula One. When they became teammates at Mercedes, everything changed. In 2014, the two started fiercely battling for the title, but Rosberg felt like the team was favoring Hamilton, and he decided to put an end to it once and for all at the 2016 Belgian Grand Prix.
Turn 3 we go, and it's Nico Rosberg, and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate. The two Mercedes come together.
Rosberg deliberately blocked Hamilton just to take him out of the race. Afterward, he even tried to offer an excuse, but his rival didn't believe it for a second.
I was in the incorrect engine setting, so I was down in power. So Lewis closed in, and I saw him coming, so I closed the door, to defend my position because that was my race to win.
I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to move forwards and hope for the best.
What have the stewards decided?
Nothing.
That interview only made things worse, with Rosberg and Hamilton's cars making contact multiple times throughout the season, like in the Australian Grand Prix, where Hamilton tried to overtake Rosberg and the two collided badly.
This hammer time, Lewis Hamilton wheel to wheel with Nico Rosberg in towards turn 2. His teammates got the inside line, they've touched again. Hamilton runs wide, and is he going to come onto the track and touch his teammate? He's now got damage, Nico Rosberg, to his front wing.
In the end, despite the highs and lows, Rosberg won the 2016 World Championship.
Wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg is second. He takes the championship.
But even though he had beaten his rival, it was clear to everyone that the atmosphere at Mercedes was unsustainable. That's why Rosberg decided to retire right after his victory, which put a definite end to the rivalry between the two. But that's not Hamilton's only enemy. What this famous driver did to him was unbelievable. But before that, let's talk about the rivalry between Niki Lauda and James Hunt, which is still one of the most controversial in Formula One history. It all started in 1976 when Lauda and Hunt were at the peak of their careers. Lauda was meticulous, cold and calculating, while Hunt was impulsive, charismatic and lived every day like it was his last. Because of these differences, it didn't take long for the two to start clashing, trying to settle their differences on the track. But the central point of their rivalry was the tragic accident Lauda had at the German Grand Prix. The crash was so severe that Lauda almost lost his life and suffered severe burns all over his body. While he fought to recover, Hunt kept winning races, and the battle for the world title got tighter and tighter. But Lauda was so determined to beat his rival that he did something crazy. He returned to Formula One just 42 days after the accident, still far from fully recovered. Even so, their rivalry heated up, reaching its peak at the Japanese Grand Prix. That day, the rain was pouring and the risk of an accident was huge, so Lauda made the shocking decision to abandon the race. Meanwhile, Hunt ignored the risks and pressed on, winning the world title by just 1 point. But that's nothing compared to Verstappen and Russell, who fought because of a horrific crash. But before that, let's talk about the day young Lewis Hamilton made Fernando Alonso furious and created an enemy for life. In 2007, Alonso, a two-time world champion, was hired by McLaren to be the #1 driver, but he didn't expect a rookie named Lewis Hamilton to terrorize his life. From the start, Hamilton challenged Alonso, winning races and winning over the team, and Alonso hated that so much that he started playing dirty, doing everything he could to win. But the peak of their hatred came at the Hungarian Grand Prix, when Alonso blocked Hamilton from leaving the pits for his quick lap by parking his car in the pit lane and holding up the British driver.
And have they raised the lollipop to let Alonso out? Is he blocking Hamilton here? Is that a bit of a tactic within the team there to give Hamilton a bit of a headache? I think it might well be. That's really...
Everyone was furious with this move, and Alonso was penalised.
Sometimes it's 10 seconds, sometimes 45 seconds, like the first stop of today. Sometimes 10 or 15, like the second. But I think the calculation was wrong because my teammate didn't complete the lap, and I crossed the line with 2 or 3 seconds.
But this only made their relationship even worse. The atmosphere became so toxic that Alonso reported his own team to the FIA in the McLaren spying scandal and left shortly afterward. The most bizarre part is that even today, Alonso still throws indirect jabs at Hamilton. In fact, when asked if Hamilton is the best driver in history, he responded, "Only if he races alone. I'm the best." The fight between Verstappen and Russell has become one of the biggest talking points in Formula One. It all started at the 2023 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, when the two made contact right on the first lap. Russell, as aggressive as ever, dove to the inside and forced Verstappen wide, causing a collision that damaged the Dutchman's car.
Lovely job, Max. Without contact as well. Nicely done.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
For Verstappen, that was a dirty and unnecessary move, and he made sure to make that very clear as soon as he could.
Mate, we all have no grip. You all need to leave a little bit of space.
Yeah, well, what's your point?
Yeah, sure. But expect it next time the same, you know?
Since then, the relationship between the two has only gotten worse. At the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix, Verstappen and Russell had another tense moment. During qualifying, Verstappen was furious because he felt Russell had blocked his fast lap. And if anyone thinks this rivalry was only on the track, they're very mistaken. Just listen to what they've been saying about each other in interviews.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when sitting there in the stewards room what was all going on. Honestly, very disappointing because I think we're all here, we respect each other a lot. And of course, I've been in that meeting room many times in my life, in my career, with people that I've raced, and I've never seen someone trying to screw someone over that hard. And that's, for me, I lost all respect.
I find his comments pretty ironic when he comes out and says, I'm going to purposefully crash into you. I'm going to put you on your f***ing head in the wall. For me, that is unacceptable.
So far, the two refuse to make amends, and if things keep going like this, it's very likely we'll see more tense moments between them in the upcoming races. But that's nothing compared to the rivalry between Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell. In 1991, the Formula One Championship was heating up, and both drivers were at the center of all the tension. They were both extremely competitive, and the difference in their driving styles and personalities only fueled the rivalry even more. But it was at the Australian Grand Prix that things really took a turn for the worse. On that day, Senna was giving it his all, but Mansell was pressuring him constantly. Then, this happened.
Now, both go out! Mansell was destined not to finish the Australian Grand Prix, and Mansell is furious!
The crash left Senna furious, and Mansell's reaction only made things worse. Not only did he blame the Brazilian for the incident, but he also made harsh criticisms of Senna's behavior during the races. That's when Senna declared Mansell his personal enemy, both on and off the track, a rivalry that lasted until the bitter end. But nothing compares to the day Hamilton sent Verstappen to the hospital and in revenge, Verstappen did something even worse. It all started at the 2021 British Grand Prix. Right on the first lap, Hamilton dove to the inside at Copse, one of the fastest corners on the circuit, and made contact with Verstappen's rear wheel. The Dutch driver lost control and crashed violently into the wall at over 155 miles per hour. The impact was so brutal that Verstappen had to be taken to the hospital for checks, which left him furious since that contact was completely unnecessary. But this was just the beginning, because at the 2021 Italian Grand Prix, something much worse happened.
It's wheel to wheel, Hamilton and Verstappen, and this time Verstappen and Hamilton have crashed out, and they are both out!
In the battle for position, while trying to overtake Hamilton at the chicane, Verstappen was forced off the track and ended up on top of the Mercedes, with his rear tyre touching the British driver's helmet. Luckily, the halo device saved Hamilton from serious injury, but the driver was so angry that he even accused Verstappen of doing it on purpose. But the peak of this rivalry came in Abu Dhabi at the final race of 2021. With both drivers tied in points, the title would be decided on the track, and from the start, it seemed like Hamilton would take the victory. But everything changed after an accident with Nicolas Latifi, which caused the safety car to be deployed. The FIA then allowed some cars to unlap themselves, putting Verstappen closer to his rival. Since Verstappen had just switched to fresh tyres, he was able to perform much better, overtaking Hamilton just moments later and winning the championship.
Is Verstappen far enough back? He's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him coming. It's a late lunge by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race. Verstappen now snatches the championship trophy from Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to fight back. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Of course, Hamilton was furious afterward, and his team strongly protested the result, but nothing changed. Verstappen was the champion. Because of this, any interaction between the two now is full of tension, and it's very likely that this rivalry will last for a long time. Meanwhile, Nelson Piquet hated Nigel Mansell so much that he even humiliated his wife in front of everyone. This all happened in 1996 when Piquet joined the Williams team, where Mansell was already driving. From the beginning, it was clear that things weren't going to work out. Williams made an agreement with Piquet that he would be the lead driver, but as soon as Mansell started performing well in the races, they decided to go back on that and treat both drivers equally. Piquet believed the team should focus their efforts on him, and when he realized that wasn't going to happen, he began sabotaging his teammate in every way possible. And it wasn't just on the track. The Brazilian started publicly attacking Mansell, giving interviews where he called him an imbecile and said he didn't have the intelligence to drive a car. But the worst was yet to come. Piquet went as far as to humiliate Mansell's wife in front of everyone, calling her ugly and stupid, which infuriated the Englishman. After that, it didn't take long for this animosity to affect their races badly, like this Grand Prix, where Mansell lost a tyre early in the race.
That is Nigel Mansell, and the car absolutely shattered. He's fighting for control, and you can see what's happened. Mansell Mansell is out of the race. Now, this could change and will change the World Championship.
Or this one, where he had to retire after a horrible accident. And this last one was even worse, as the crash handed Piquet the World Championship title. But even after the tragic accident, neither of them was willing to make peace. This led Piquet to leave Williams at the end of the year and join Lotus, where he never had chances of winning another championship. Meanwhile, Mansell stayed with Williams, and after a few years of frustration, he finally won the World Championship in 1992, coming out on top in the rivalry.